In at number 10, the real reason her residency is cancelled. Adele announced on her Instagram last Thursday that her residency at Caesar's Palace was going to be delayed indefinitely. She announced the cancellation less than a day before her first performance was scheduled. She cried on Instagram while she said that the show was not ready, blaming rising cases and other issues with her crew as the reason for the delay. However, the truth has now come out, and it's been exposed that problems in her relationship with Rich Paul are the real reason she is not performing. A source said, quote, "There's trouble in paradise, that's why she can't perform." This comes days after insiders exposed that she'd been crying through her rehearsals and was constantly on the phone with Paul while she was supposed to be rehearsing. Sources said, quote, "Adele's been crying and couldn't get through a single full rehearsal for the past month, just constantly on the phone with Rich, loudly shouting and sobbing." As of now, it seems that the entire residency might be off because Keith Urban has now taken over a portion of her tour dates. And at number 9, a secret relationship. Prior to her album 30 being released, Adele was very open about the fact that the album would be talking about her divorce. Adele had been with her ex, Simon Konecki, for years before getting married and having a child together, but shortly after they tied the knot, they got a divorce. Now the singer is dating Rich Paul, but a lot of people don't know that Adele had a secret relationship before she started publicly dating Paul. The songs All Night Parking and Woman Like Me are both about this secret relationship. She described that the relationship was long distance and was never going to work out, but it was a, quote, "great learning curve and nice to feel loved." In Woman Like Me, the song paints Adele's ex as lazy, complacent, and incapable of appreciating her value. When describing this relationship, she said, quote, "There was someone I have loved, not been in love with, but been so fond of and have been for years, but I was unable to pretend that I wasn't in my own storm. I couldn't give myself properly. I couldn't be consistent, neither could he. And quote, I associate him with the breakdown of my marriage. So therefore, he's a part of my storm." And at number 8, family issues. Adele is very private about her personal life, and that includes her relationship with her family. Specifically, Adele and her father have always had a strained relationship. In 2011, her father, who she had very little contact with, claimed the singer struggled to find love because she, quote, "had abandonment issues." Mark left their family when Adele was only 8, and part of the reason was due to his addiction to alcohol. Then in 2017, Adele confirmed a tense relationship during her acceptance speech for Record of the Year at the Grammys, saying to her manager, quote, "I love you like you're my dad. I love you so much. I don't love my dad, that's the thing." Adele's father passed away from cancer last year, and it's been reported that in his final months, the relationship was not able to be mended. And at number 7, hides from fans. Since Adele's been able to sell out sports stadiums full of adoring fans, the logistics of how she is getting around those stadiums without being noticed is a bit tricky. But her crew came up with a unique way to get her around that had to be kept secret from fans. This method is to hide Adele in one of those black boxes that the crews usually move cargo around the stadium. So she gets wheeled through all her fans while hiding in one of those boxes. And the fans have no idea they are just steps away from the woman that they paid to come see. One downside is that several minutes inside this plastic container leaves her dripping with sweat, something she addressed early in her performance at the ANZ Stadium in Sydney, with her joking, quote, "How I get to the stage makes me so sweaty, I'm drenched." Then at the end of the night, she told fans how she got around. And at number 6, secret Twitter account. Adele has been open about the fact that she does not use her official social media accounts, and her team has actually taken her passwords away from her because they don't trust what she posts. Because of this, she has multiple secret social media accounts that she uses instead. Specifically, she created her own secret Twitter account so she could share her true thoughts on things secretly. Speaking during a gig in Brisbane, Australia, she said, quote, "I was looking on Twitter last night. They don't know I have a secret account. Well, obviously they do now because I said that. By the way, I mean my management. I'm not allowed to access my own Twitter because I'm quite mouthy and I say the wrong thing a lot of the time. So they took that privilege away from me." She got the rights to her Instagram back in 2020, but they were quickly taken away once again after Adele posted the controversial photo of herself attending the Notting Hill Carnival in August of 2020 wearing Bantu knots.
And at number 5, Ludwig van Beethoven. On his deathbed, Beethoven wrote a love letter to the love of his life, although he didn't address it to anyone, so we have no idea who this woman was. When he died in 1827, a letter was left to the Germans' immortal beloved. It was later determined that he wrote the letter years before in 1812. Scholars have tried to speculate who his beloved could be, but there is no clear answer. The most likely choice seems to be Antoine Bertinato. She was close with him, mainly because she was actually married to a good friend of his. Others proposed Josephine Countess von Brunswick as the most likely candidate because he had written her love letters in the past. It was speculated that since she was poor and of low social standing, he was not allowed to be open about his true feelings for her. Since he never told anyone, only he knows the answer. And at number 4, the Black Dahlia. The Black Dahlia is one of the most infamous cases in LA history. On January 15th of 1947, 22-year-old Elizabeth Short's body was found dead in a vacant lot near a park in LA. The state of her body was the most concerning. Her body was cut in half and all the blood was drained from it. Her body was also perfectly clean, so no evidence was able to be collected from it. There was only one witness that was any help to police. The person claimed they saw a black sedan parked in the area the night before. Since her passing, there have been tons of theories about how or why it happened. And even though so much time has passed, nobody has ever been charged for the crime. Today, the Black Dahlia case remains one of the oldest cold case files in LA, as well as the city's most famous. And at number 3, Prince. Prince is one of the most legendary singers of all time, who made a huge impact on the industry, but his shocking death left many with unanswered questions, and many fans are still convinced we don't know the full story. On April 21st of 2016, he was found unresponsive in an elevator at the Paisley Park studio. Initially, the police marked it as an accident because when he passed away, he had many substances in his system. No charges were filed against anyone, even though many of Prince's fans do not believe he would have done this. Years later, there is still no definitive answers, specifically no idea how he got these substances and how he was able to ingest so much. According to sources that knew him very well, he didn't use any of these substances and had no intentions to start. Because there's still so many unanswered questions, the case remains open. And at number 2, George Reeves. In 1959, actor George Reeves was killed under very mysterious circumstances. He made a name for himself playing Superman in the 1950s TV show Adventures of Superman, but his career was cut short after he was killed. At the age of 45, he was killed by a shot to the head. The strange death was then labeled as him taking his own life, but many fans do not believe this could be the case. It was rumored that he was intentionally killed or the death was completely accidental. To add even more strangeness, the death happened while Reeves was with 3 other people, including his fiancée. But even though all those people most likely witnessed what actually happened, none of them ever told. And finally, at number 1, Nicole Brown Simpson. One of the most talked about cases of all time is the case of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman. Their death started the case of O.J. Simpson that would become the trial of the century. Nicole Brown Simpson and her friend Ron Goldman were killed outside Simpson's Brentwood, California condo in 1994. After some investigation, it was clear that O.J., her ex-husband, was the prime suspect. His DNA had been found at the crime scene, and witnesses saw him leaving the scene of the crime that night. After an intense and highly publicized trial, he was found not guilty, and with no other suspects considered, the person responsible is still out there. Although many people are convinced that O.J. is the person who did it, and lucky circumstances are the real reason he got off. He was later found guilty of committing the act in a civil lawsuit done by Ron Goldman's family, but because of O.J.'s financial troubles, he has not paid this debt. Years later, O.J. went to prison for robbery and is now out free. And at number 10, Britney bribed her parents' divorce. One of the most shocking revelations from Jamie Lynn's book and interviews was the fact that her parents never had the perfect marriage, and their father Jamie struggled with alcohol issues while they were young. This caused his behavior to be unpredictable when they were growing up, and it put a huge strain on their children. Because of the toxic relationship, Britney told her mother she would buy her a house if she divorced Jamie, her father. Her mother did this, got the house and the divorce, and then her father basically lived at the house anyway. Jamie Lynn says their dad was there the first night that the women moved into the new house. Jamie Lynn didn't know how to act. She was so young, she was knowing her sister's wishes, but seeing her mother staying with this man, she was angry, upset, and didn't know which side to take. And at number 9, barefoot in a gas station bathroom. In 2004, Britney made the strange decision to go barefoot into a sketchy bathroom, and the media questioned her cleanliness ever since that incident. While at a gas station in Ventura, California, Britney needed to use the bathroom and decided to just use one at the gas station. Her fiancé Kevin Federline was waiting in the car for her when paparazzi snapped her walking into the unisex bathroom with bare feet. Yup, that's right. Britney decided to use a unisex gas station bathroom with no shoes on. I feel like it would honestly be hard to find any celebrity that would be okay with using a gas station bathroom in general. After that, the media exploded questioning her hygiene, and I'm sure she regrets how much media attention that small moment got. But at the end of the day, if she feels fine going barefoot, who are we to judge? And at number 8, Jamie Lynn's terrifying experience. In her new book, Jamie Lynn describes a terrifying event with her sister that sheds light on the struggles that Britney was facing at that time. She wrote, quote, "One time she said to me, 'Baby, I'm scared,' and took a large knife from the kitchen, pulled me along to my room, and she locked us both inside. She put the weapon in the bedside table drawer and simply repeated, 'I'm scared.' She needed me to sleep beside her." Jamie Lynn describes how scared she was during that incident and claims she experienced panic attacks after that. Britney responded to the shocking allegations on Twitter, denying that the event ever happened. Britney wrote, quote, "I've never been around you with a knife, or would I ever think to do such." Neither parent has made a statement about which sister is telling the truth. And at number 7, Jason Alexander wedding. One of Britney's most controversial moments was when she decided to get married to her childhood friend in Vegas, clearly an impulsive move. Her sister Jamie Lynn gave more details surrounding this event in her book, and Jamie Lynn said she could sense that something was wrong when Britney came home for the holidays. Jamie Lynn describes Britney coming home for the holidays and acting very strange. Britney allegedly met up with Alexander on Christmas Eve before she took the women in the family on a tropical vacation. She wrote, quote, "Immediately I noticed that Britney was being secretive and keeping her distance. She wanted to be anywhere but with us. I was particularly hurt by her shunning." After the family got back from the trip, Britney flew to Vegas with friends, and Jamie Lynn knew something bad was going to happen. Jamie Lynn even remembers telling Britney not to get married. Then Britney just rolled her eyes and told her that she wouldn't. But as we know, just hours later Britney would in fact marry him. Jamie Lynn admitted she was embarrassed by the whole fiasco, though to keep up appearances she pretended at the time it was blown out of proportion. She added, "At that point, the chaos of my sister's life was just beginning." And at number 6, driving with infant on lap. In 2006, there was another incident with Britney and her new baby that actually caused the police to show up at her home to check on them. Paparazzi snapped Britney at a Malibu Starbucks, driving out of the parking lot with her baby, Sean Preston, in her lap. This is not only illegal but very scary, as infants must ride in car seats to be as safe as possible on the road. When asked later about the incident, she blamed aggressive paparazzi. The paparazzi made her pull out quickly because she felt threatened. But the police did not care about this explanation, and the LA County Sheriff's Department visited Spears' home to talk about the incident at the request of county child welfare authorities. The paparazzi also clapped back at the claims and said they were not threatening her in any way. The photo agency said, quote, "These pictures were taken in a very peaceful context in which photographers exhibited no aggressive behavior."
In at number 5 is Matthew Broderick. Matthew Broderick is known largely for his titular role as Ferris Bueller in the John Hughes coming-of-age film Ferris Bueller's Day Off. He was also in The Producers and a bunch of other A-list movies. What you may not know about him, however, is that he was directly involved and in fact caused the death of numerous people. He and Jennifer Grey, the star of Dirty Dancing, were on a romantic vacation in Ireland when Matthew head-on hit the car of a 28-year-old woman and her mother. Both women were pronounced dead at the hospital. The road was straight and easy to navigate. The issue was that they were in Ireland, and he, out of habit, drove on the wrong side of the road, which led to the crash. Following the accident, Broderick was convicted of careless driving but was only fined $175, which to this day the family of the victims called a, quote, travesty of justice. At number 4 is Jackie Chan. While Jackie Chan appeared as a comedic kung fu fighting man on the screen, his personal life is absolutely insane and surprisingly not well known. In fact, Jackie himself didn't know until well into his career just how many secrets were being kept in his family. He learned in 2003 that he had 2 secret brothers living in China and that his father was a nationalist spy on secret missions to bust substance crime in mainland China. In fact, that's where he met Jackie's mother. In what seems like a moment straight out of a noir crime boss movie, Jackie's father met his mother, Li Chan, because he was sent to bust her as an infamous dealer and legendary gambler in Shanghai. So, his mother was one of the lords of the Chinese underbelly, and his father was sent to arrest her. The two fled to Australia together, where they lived until their death. Jackie's father also revealed that the actor's real family name isn't Chan at all, but rather Fang. How's that for a family reunion? In at number 3 is Rose McGowan. Rose was one of the founding spokespersons in the Me Too movement, joining dozens of women who brought Harvey Weinstein to justice. She is best known for her 90s movies like Jawbreaker, Scream, and Encino Man. But what you may not know about her is her rather horrifying upbringing. She was born in Florence, Italy, where her parents lived in a commune called the Children of God. Basically, she was born into a cult that had mass allegations of horrifying crimes against humanity. I can't really say what they are because of YouTube restrictions, but if you're curious, I suggest you look into it with a serious content warning in mind. The cult in question lured people in with promises of all kinds of physical intimacy and activities universities with extremely young women set to perform such acts on the men in the cult. Luckily for Rose, she was largely protected from the more heinous side of the cult, and she and her family fled when she was 14 years old, where, quote, "We hid in an old stone house and had to boil pots of water to take baths. The cult sent people to find us. I remember a man trying to break in with a hammer." Number 2 on the list, Rihanna. While the celebrity singer is in the news lately for her exciting pregnancy with A$AP Rocky, what you may not know about her is her rather insane early life, and the secrets that they kept even from her until they were finally brought to light. Old family photos were unearthed that reveal a secret side of the family that Rihanna herself rarely ever talks about: her father's other kids. Rihanna has 3 older siblings through her father by 3 different women, as he admitted to being quite the womanizer in his heyday. Her and her father have an extremely complicated relationship, as he has dealt with substance use issues for most of his life. And now to find out that she had 3 other siblings she knew nothing about, it's a wonder the two have stuck together through so much. And in at number 1 is Mark Wahlberg. The actor and singer needs no introduction, but he may need a little disclaimer beside his name for the rather horrifying incident he caused in the 80s. When he was 16 years old, Mark had an extremely harsh life, and he ended up brutally harming an elderly Vietnamese man in a racially motivated attack. He shouted slurs at him while physically harming him so badly that Mark was charged with attempted murder. While he was sentenced to 2 years in prison, for some reason he only served 45 days. In a beautiful show of faith, his victim, whose name is Johnny Trin, stated that he forgives Mark. Quote, "Everyone deserves another chance. He was young and reckless, but I forgive him now. He paid for his crime when he went to prison." Mark got a pardon from the court, basically exonerating him from his crime, an action that he later stated he regrets. Quote, "I didn't need that. I spent 28 years righting the wrong. I was relieved to find out that the injuries to his eye had occurred in the early 70s and not from the incident that happened that night, but I was able to meet with him and his wife and his daughter and apologize for these horrific acts. Some good can come out of it."
In at number 10, holiday stint in treatment. On January 10th of this year, it was reported that Demi was home after a stint in rehab for the holidays. Demi has struggled with substance issues for years, and after being declared sober for the last few years, Demi decided to go back to treatment over the holidays. A source said Demi, quote, "completed a rehab stint in Utah recently and is now back in Los Angeles." Adding, quote, "They wanted to get back on track and recently swore off being California sober. Demi's friends and family were there to support them during their time in rehab." Apparently, Lovato wanted to start the year off in a good path, and going back to rehab helped a lot with this. Demi has also made lifestyle changes now that they are back. The insider added, quote, "Demi will have a sober living companion with them during this transition. It was their decision to go back to rehab." Demi has not addressed these reports, but they have wiped their Instagram feed. In at number 9, not California sober anymore. After their OD in 2018, Demi has struggled with maintaining sobriety. After the OD, they claim that they were California sober, which is when a person does no substances other than the green one that you smoke. I can't say it on YouTube. Demi posted to Instagram on December 2nd, admitting they were not fully sober and they needed to be 100% clean. Writing, quote, "I no longer support my California sober ways. Sober is the only way to be." After reflecting on her different take towards different substances, they knew they needed to make a big change, and now it's all or nothing. These comments came shortly after Lala Kent slammed Lovato for the California sober term. Lala claimed that the term was super offensive and minimized how hard it is to be actually sober. Lala claimed that if you are doing any substance, you are not sober. Clearly, Demi resonated with these words. In at number 8, Demi was the bully, not the victim. Demi Lovato has been open about being bullied when they were younger. However, a lot of people from that school claimed that Demi was lying, and in reality, they were actually the ones bullying other students. On Reddit, people were asked to list the celebrities who attended their high school, and some were pointing out how Lovato was the real bully at their school. Apparently, Demi was a part of the cool clique that would tease other people, and since Demi was a TV star by that point, it makes sense that people would want to be friends with them. Those accounts depicted the total opposite of what Demi has been saying for years. And not only were the students speaking up against Demi, but the teachers did too. They agreed that the singer was rude in school. Clearly, Demi has been telling a lot of lies about their past. In at number 7, Selena Gomez feud. Demi Lovato has made tons of shady digs about Selena Gomez. The pair started as friends, acting on Barney and Friends as kids. Their friendship continued into their teen years when they both became Disney stars. But things started to become tense when Selena got other friends and Demi felt left behind. When asked how Selena was in 2010, Demi replied, quote, "Ask Taylor Swift." Yikes, jealous much? Eventually, the pair mended their feud, and Demi admitted that Selena was one of the only people to contact them after their OD. But problems came once again when Demi unfollowed Selena, and it was clear the tension was brewing once again. Then in May of 2020, Demi exposed that the two don't keep in touch at all, which was a huge shock because Selena had just publicly supported Demi on Instagram. All in all, Demi looks like the bad guy in this debacle, and public opinion is firmly on the side of Selena Gomez, because it seems Selena has always tried to mend their issues while Demi just wants to keep feuding. And at number 6, hit backup dancer. One of the shadiest things that Demi has ever done was hitting one of their backup dancers in the face. This took place in November of 2010 while Demi was on tour with the Jonas Brothers. Demi was only 18 at the time and was acting pretty badly during the whole tour. Typical teenage behavior for the most part. But things turned really nasty when they got in trouble with the tour managers for a certain issue, and Demi demanded to know who ratted them out to the managers. After Demi figured out who snitched, Demi did the unthinkable and hit the dancer Alex Welch in the face. Welch initially complained that Lovato never apologized to her after this incident, but Demi's rep said this was because Demi was sent straight to rehab after the incident. In late December of 2010, people reported that Welch and Lovato reached a settlement for an undisclosed sum, part of which was donated to charity.
We are now at our 5th and halfway mark with Sean Penn. A number of women have come forward saying that Sean Penn has been aggressive towards them. In fact, he has mistreated a number of his partners, including Madonna. They were married from 1985 to 1989. While in December of 1988, Penn allegedly tied Madonna to a chair and held her hostage for 9 hours and apparently hit her multiple times. When he untied her to let her use the bathroom, she fled to the police station. One officer said, and I quote, "Madonna staggered into the station. She was distraught, crying, with makeup smeared all over her face. I hardly recognized her. She had obviously been struck." Sean was charged with inflicting corporal injury and traumatic conditions on Madonna, as well as battery. But Madonna withdrew her complaint a week later and has rarely commented on it since, which is quite odd. Why would she say that he harmed her and then retract the statement? So who knows what really happened. Moving on to number 4, we have Leighton Meester. Now, I personally did not know this, but Blair Waldorf, aka Leighton Meester, wasn't always the queen bee of Manhattan. In fact, she was born in prison. Basically, her mom was serving a sentence after smuggling a lot of marijuana out of Jamaica with the help of Leighton's dad and Aunt Judy. All of them ended up behind bars. In fact, her aunt managed to escape prison and became America's first woman on the US Marshals 15 Most Wanted list. How insane is that? In the end, Leighton's grandmother raised her while her mom served 16 months in prison. Thank gosh she didn't follow in her family's footsteps. In our 3rd spot, we have Christopher Walken. Christopher Walken was involved in a death that is just shrouded in mystery. On November 29th, 1981, 43-year-old actress Natalie Wood was found dead, floating face down in the Pacific Ocean. She was on a yacht with her husband Robert Wagner and Christopher Walken when this happened. The thing is, no one really knows what happened to her. Some say she slipped off the deck and fell into the water, while others are convinced that her husband or Christopher Walken had something to do with it, or that they know what happened. One theory is that Natalie and Christopher were having an affair, Wagner found out about it, got mad, and pushed her off the yacht. Now, Wagner seems to be the prime suspect, but many people think that Walken knows exactly what happened. I mean, he barely even talks about the case, and on the rare occasion that he did, he would call it an accident, and also he was absent from the documentary about her. All I'm gonna say is someone knows something. I'm getting the vibe that Walken knows what happened and maybe he just feels guilty about it. In our 2nd spot, we have Charlize Theron. Charlize Theron actually had a very traumatic upbringing. Her dad struggled with alcohol addiction and would constantly threaten Charlize and her mom, Gerda. He would never physically hurt her, but he would hurt Gerda. One night in June of 1991, he got angry and fired shots at both of them. During that altercation, Gerda ran and grabbed her own handgun that she had kept hidden and shot him back. Her shots killed him while Charlize watched it all unravel. In the end, it was declared self-defense and Gerda never faced any charges. But think how traumatizing that must have been for her to see her mother shoot and kill her dad as a teenager. And in our number 1 spot today, we have Ashton Kutcher. Now, I never knew this and I was incredibly shocked when I found out about it. But on February 21st of 2001, Ashton Kutcher went over to his then girlfriend's house, Ashley Elrin. The two had planned on going to a post-Grammy party, but when he knocked on the door, there was no answer. That's because Ashley was dead on the floor of her home. She had been stabbed 47 times by a man named the Hollywood Ripper. He was responsible for the death of up to 10 women. As a result, all, Ashton Kutcher lost his girlfriend very suddenly and in a very traumatic way. He was also scared that he was going to be a suspect in the murder investigation since his fingerprints were on her door, but he never was, but he did have to testify in court.
3. And at number 10, Bob Saget. Legendary comedian Bob Saget passed away suddenly on January 9th in a hotel room in Orlando. Immediately after his passing, fans were speculating on how he passed. After some investigation, it was reported that there was no foul play or use of substances, that he most likely just passed away of a heart attack or stroke. But the autopsy has just come back, and we know that he actually died of blunt force trauma to the head, a much different story than what was said before. The night before he died, Saget did a show at a concert hall in Jacksonville, Florida. Then he was found unresponsive in his room at the Ritz-Carlton in Orlando, quote, in a face-upward position on his bed, according to a police report. Police are now saying a fall could be the reason, but other experts are claiming the force used is similar to that of a baseball bat, raising even more questions. As of now, Saget's family is blocking the release of any records pertaining to the case over privacy issues, so it seems we may never know what really happened to cause his death. And at number 9, Naya Rivera. Naya Rivera, best known from the show Glee, shocked the world when it was reported that she had gone missing in a lake in July of 2020. She was out on a boat with her young son, and after many hours on the water, the boat returned with only her son on it. Her child was found asleep on the vessel by a boater that afternoon, alongside Rivera's purse, wallet, and ID, but Naya was nowhere to be found. After searching the lake for days, her body was discovered. The Ventura County Sheriff's Department announced on July 13th that they had recovered her body following an extensive search and recovery effort. Since then, her death has been ruled an accident, but for many fans, the whole thing just seems too strange to be true, and unfortunately we will never know the full story of what happened on the boat that day. And at number 8, Michael Jackson. The king of pop died suddenly at the age of 50 after suffering a cardiac arrest in June of 2009. But there's been so much mystery around his death, it went from being ruled an OD to a homicide. He was found unresponsive in his home, and it was determined that he ingested too much of a substance. After investigation, his personal physician, Dr. Conrad Murray, was charged with manslaughter, with the courts arguing he prescribed Jackson much more than was needed, and his prescription caused his death. The years after his passing, allegations of inappropriate conduct from former friends of Jackson's came to light. And ever since, fans have been trying to figure out what really happened between Jackson and the kids he would spend time with at his home. The secrets of what truly happened will now never be uncovered. And at number 7, Benjamin Franklin. Benjamin Franklin is known for a lot of things, specifically being one of the founding fathers of the USA, but it seems he was not always faithful to his wife, and he had a mysterious son with another woman. The son, named William Franklin, was clear he was the son of Franklin's, but notoriously mysterious over who his mother was. Some suspect he was born before Ben married Deborah Reed, making him illegitimate. Another theory is that he cheated on his wife with a mistress who ended up getting pregnant. William was involved with his father's business and even became noteworthy in his own right for helping his father in his famous kite experiment. He eventually settled in England to distance himself from the family, and when he passed, he never revealed who his mother was. And at number 6, Kurt Cobain. Nirvana frontman Kurt Cobain tragically passed away at the age of 27 in 1994 and is a member of the infamous 27 Club. Law enforcement determined that Cobain took his own life, but there was a lot of inconsistencies in his case that led many to speculate that's not actually how he died. A book was even written blaming the whole thing on Cobain's wife, Courtney Love. The book claims that he died of an OD before being shot by Love. A private detective who was hired determined that Love even tried to pay someone to have them kill Cobain for her. This man claimed he was offered $50,000 and even passed a polygraph proving it. Although Love was never officially charged, she's guilty in the court of public opinion, and many fans are convinced she is responsible, but only Cobain knows the truth.
At number 5, Staten Island. Let's stray away from the relationship drama and get back to Pete's comedy to reveal another secret that he might want to keep hidden. I told you about one of the jokes Pete made about a former veteran that didn't go over well, but here's another one that ended up offending his hometown of Staten Island. In 2012, a Category 3 hurricane passed through Staten Island, causing destruction and devastation in the area. Hundreds of people lost their homes and businesses, so with this somber aftermath, it probably wasn't the best time to be making jokes, though Pete ended up doing it anyway. In 2016, 2016, Pete ended up poking fun at the natural disaster that ripped through his hometown when he said, quote, "Hurricane Sandy should have finished the job when it landed in Staten Island," end quote. As you could imagine, the joke didn't go over well with those who were affected by the devastation. He later went on to defend his remarks when he said, quote, "To be fair, I was raised there and Staten Island should share some of the blame," end quote. This caused him to face a lot of backlash, and though this has all since died off, there's always the chance of it resurfacing to cause more trouble for the comedian, so maybe he would prefer if this scandal stayed hidden in the shadows. At number 4, Manchester joke. You guys might remember the Manchester attack at Ariana Grande's 2017 concert. It was a bombing at one of her shows that caused mass casualties and injuries. It was certainly no laughing matter, but Pete Davidson still decided to make a joke about the terrible incident, and as you can imagine, it did not go over well. Looking back on it, this is probably something from his past that he would have wanted to keep hidden because it was so controversial. In the fall of 2017, Pete made a joke saying that after this attack, Ariana should have realized how famous she was because, quote, "Britney Spears didn't have a terrorist attack at her concert," end quote. This joke didn't go over well at the time, but a year later when it resurfaced after Pete and Ariana started dating, Ari defended her man, saying that he was just using humor to cope with the tragedy. Fans still weren't happy about what was said, and now that Pete has even more clout because of Kim K, if this joke were to resurface again, he could face more backlash than ever before. At number 3, Tic Tacs. During a segment on SNL while Pete Davidson and Ariana Grande were still dating, Pete made a joke about his relationship with the singer and trapping her in their relationship, and this ended up causing more backlash than genuine laughter. During the segment, Pete was talking about how Ariana was the breadwinner in their relationship and how he was just living off her wealth, and made a joke that he was trying to trap her in the relationship so that he could keep living like that. Pete said that in order to keep her around, he switched her birth control pills with Tic Tacs, saying, quote, "Last night I switched her birth control with Tic Tacs. I believe in us and all. I just want to make sure that she can't go anywhere." This ended up causing some controversy because fans said that not only should Pete not be able to control his girlfriend's reproductive rights, but that it was also hella toxic that he joked about trapping her. This is probably one comment that Pete wishes would stay hidden because judging by the fact that he is currently dating Kim K, people might think that he might pull a stunt like this again. At number 2, Howard Stern. There are just some things that you shouldn't share with the public about your relationship, and your intimacy is definitely one of those things. But Pete doesn't hold back with anything, and in 2018 he told Howard Stern about his private time with Ariana Grande. The comedian dished about the intimate time he spent with Ariana, saying, quote, "Anytime we're intimate, I'm always apologizing and saying thank you. You're awesome for doing this. Thank you so much," end quote. To make matters even more uncomfortable, Pete also talked about how before they were together, he would pleasure himself to the thought of Ariana Grande. It is a really weird and gross thing to say publicly, so this might be a comment that Pete wishes that he could keep from the public because it could reflect badly on him and his new relationship with Kim K. And finally, at number 1, Spotlight. In the past, Pete has reflected on the fame that he has as a comedian and just as a public figure in general, saying that he doesn't always like having all eyes on him. With that said though, some people have called those comments hypocritical because of the fact that though he hates the spotlight, he enters relationships with A-list celebrities. Now that he's dating one of the biggest celebrities, those hypocritical comments could come back to cause controversies, so maybe this is something that he could have wished was secret.
Starting off this countdown in no particular order, we've got Jon Hamm. Jon Hamm is most notably famous for his role in the hit television series Mad Men as a cutthroat advertising executive. What he may not want you to know about him, however, were his less than savory college days that landed him in some serious trouble. In 1990, Jon was arrested for his alleged role in a fraternity hazing that turned horribly violent. His fraternity house was even dissolved after Hamm and his friends harmed a pledge so violently that he was in the hospital, even going as far as to light him on fire. Jon was charged with a misdemeanor offense, and when he was asked about it in 2018, his response wasn't the best. Quote, "I was essentially acquitted. I wasn't convicted of anything. I was caught up in a big situation, a stupid kid in a stupid situation, and it was a bummer. I moved on from it." Okay, now we're moving on, I guess. And at number 9 is Richard Pryor, the iconic comedian who is often cited as direct inspiration for other comedy legends like Eddie Murphy and Dave Chappelle. Pryor changed the game. But what you may not know is that there was an extremely dark past behind the All Smiles comic. Richard grew up in an extremely unstable childhood, raised by a substance-using mother in a brothel in Illinois. Richard saw things that no child should ever have to see, and to cope with such a horrifying childhood, he also turned to substance use to self-medicate. Richard was married 7 times to 5 different women who had trouble with the comic's insatiable personal life. He even
Tipton almost passed away at his own hand when he doused himself in rum and lit himself on fire while using substances. Pryor's friend even stated in an interview, quote, "He has about 13 personalities, and while you could deal with 9 of them, the other 4 are a nightmare." At number 8 is Billy Tipton. Billy Tipton, if you haven't heard of him, was a revered jazz musician who rose to fame in the 1940s and 1950s. He lived his life in relative normalcy outside of his celebrity status. Although he was never married, he did have 5 serious girlfriends, all of whom referred to themselves as Miss Tipton. Eventually, he settled down with a woman named Kelly, and they adopted 3 sons together. It wasn't until his death from a stomach ulcer in 1989 that, as he was being rushed to the hospital, his giant secret was uncovered. Billy Tipton was born a woman and had concealed his sex throughout his entire life, even from his relationships. The revelation came as, quote, "a shock to nearly everyone, including the women who had considered themselves his wives, as well as his sons and the musicians who traveled with him." To explain away any intimacy that would have happened between his partners, Billy reportedly said that he was in a serious car accident that mutilated his body, leaving him unable to perform. At the time this was revealed, it sent shockwaves through the music scene where trans performers were basically completely unheard of. And at number 7 is Prince. The iconic pop singer is considered one of the greatest musicians to have ever lived, but he also had a secret that was only uncovered upon his tragic and sudden death in 2016. After he passed, many stories started to come to light as both bank statements became public and from various sources. These bank statements revealed that Prince had been secretly donating insane sums of money to various charities throughout his life, each with the condition that the donation be private and that the donor be kept a secret. A few organizations that he did support in the days before his death were the Harlem Children's Zone and Uptown Dance Academy, New York. He even donated $12,000 to the Louisville Free Public Library in order to keep it from closing, all under the condition that they keep his name unlisted from donor records. He reportedly gave thousands away at a time, particularly to charities related to children, as his own child tragically passed away after only 6 days of life. He also focused on environmental issues, and uniquely, unlike a lot of celebrities who choose to invest so they get a financial return, Prince just donated to foundations that support environmental causes and a transition to solar power. Number 6, Jimmy Page. Jimmy Page is the virtuoso guitarist and founder of Led Zeppelin. Jimmy is largely known as one of the greatest guitarists in the history of rock music. I mean, he set the standard for the many who have imitated his electric style. Yet, what he may not want you to know about him is his predatory relationship with a young girl who was only 14 at the time. While he toured with Led Zeppelin, Jimmy dated Lori Maddox, although they kept their relationship extremely private and basically hidden because it was, you know, illegal and creepy. Even in the loose 70s, this relationship could have put Page in jail. They dated for a little while, and who knows what they did behind the scenes, but Jimmy eventually dumped her for BB Bell, who was of age at the time, thank God. Either way, not a fan of this one.
Halfway number 5, the family's Hollywood team made all the decisions. Although we are putting most of the blame on the conservatorship on Britney's father, Jamie, which should be the case, we need to discuss the role that Hollywood executives had in it too. These executives also made a lot of family decisions during Jamie Lynn's unexpected teen pregnancy. This is the reason that Britney's made a point to talk about the bad job done by her previous lawyers, along with the manipulation by Lou Taylor, who was Britney's business manager at the time of her conservatorship. It is widely believed that Taylor was the real architect of the conservatorship and gave Jamie the tools he needed to control Britney's life. Jamie Lynn herself even questioned who made a lot of the decisions during her time pregnant. Jamie Lynn also stated that the media has been twisting a lot of the quotes that the sisters have said, and the media are the ones putting the wedge between the whole family. And at number 4, almost dropped her son. This was another incident back in 2006 involving her newborn son. Only a week after the incident where she was caught driving with the baby on her lap, she tripped while walking in Manhattan and almost dropped her son, Sean Preston. She was leaving the Ritz-Carlton holding a drink in her right hand and Sean in her left as she maneuvered through the crowd of onlookers. Britney moved through the crowd and then she suddenly tripped. The baby's head then went backward as the hat flew off his head. Britney regained her balance and the baby seemed okay thanks to a quick reaction from the bodyguard. To make matters worse, it didn't look like she spilled a drop of the drink that she was holding in her other hand. It was reported that days later she had a breakdown over the incident. Since 2 of these similar incidents with her son happened so closely together, her parenting skills were further scrutinized by the public. And at number 3, attacks paparazzi with umbrella. One of Britney's worst moments in the press was in 2007 when she attacked a paparazzi with a green umbrella because she was so mad over all the attention she was getting. At this time, Britney was clearly going through a lot. She had just shaved her head in front of the public. It was all anyone was talking about. Britney was begging to be left alone and deal with her issues while not getting bombarded with paparazzi. But obviously that did not happen, and she was hounded more than ever. At the time, her paparazzi attack became so famous that a Florida morning radio host even used photos from her breakdown on his Total Nutjobs billboards. Months after the incident, she apologized in a bizarre statement, writing, quote, "I apologize to the pop for a stunt that was done 4 months ago regarding an umbrella. I was preparing my character for a role in a movie where the husband never plays his part, so they switched places accidentally. I take all my roles very seriously and got a little carried away. Unfortunately, I didn't get the part." In at number 2, screaming at Sam Lufti. Sam Lufti is one of the most controversial people in the world of Britney Spears, and her entire family blames Sam for her eventual downfall in 2007. In 2008, the pair got in a screaming match over Britney's boyfriend at the time, paparazzo Adnan Ghalib, and this was one of many of their public fights back then. Apparently, Britney and Sam got in a huge fight and Britney refused to go into his house, so she called her boyfriend, Adnan Ghalib, to come get her at Sam's house. He came right over, but when he got there, Sam would not let him get Britney. The guards were under strict orders from Sam not to let him in. He tried calling each of her 6 cell phones and the house phone, but she did not answer. Years later, Britney would get restraining orders from both Sam Lufti and Adnan Ghalib. And finally, number 1, her career was almost threatened. Back in the 90s when Britney was becoming a star, there was a man in the shadows of all the most famous boy bands who ended up scamming all of them. The man was named Lou Pearlman, and he created both the Backstreet Boys and NSYNC. He wanted Spears to join a girl group that he had been working on, but she was more set on being a solo artist at the time. Thankfully, she didn't want to be in a girl group, or she would have been working with Pearlman when the members of the boy bands realized that they were being scammed. He was later sued for fraud and misrepresentation by most of the pop acts that he worked with, on top of being behind one of the largest Ponzi schemes in history. And the members of the boy bands only received a fraction of the money that he owed them.
Starting off this countdown in no particular order, we have Woody Harrelson. Woody Harrelson's dad, Charles Harrelson, was an American hitman and organized crime figure. Yes, you heard me correctly. Beloved actor Woody Harrelson had a father who was a cold-blooded killer. He was just 7 at the time when his father first went to prison. It's said that he was responsible for the deaths of at least 20 people. In 1979, that is when Charles committed his biggest kill of all time. He took out a federal judge by the name of Judge John H. Wood Jr. He was the first federal judge to be killed in the 20th century. He was paid $250,000 to kill off this judge. It was because a drug dealer was about to be sentenced by this judge, who was known as Maximum John, because he always gave out really harsh punishments to drug dealers. So he got Charles to knock him off for him, but this landed him behind bars and in solitary confinement. He was there until he was 69 when he died from a heart attack. Obviously, Woody does not want to be defined by his father's actions. In our 9th spot, we have Joaquin Phoenix. Joaquin is one of the few actors who actually grew up in a cult. He was born into the commune of Children of God, but when he was 4 years old, his parents managed to escape the cult and move. That's actually why they changed their last name to Phoenix, as it symbolizes rebirth, since they were able to leave this cult and start a new life. Unfortunately, he also lost his brother at a young age. In 1993, his brother River Phoenix died from an overdose. Joaquin witnessed this happen, and he was the one that called 911. In our 8th spot today, we have Phil Lewis. Phil Lewis is best known for his role of Mr. Mosby on The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, and I freaking love that show. Like, it was honestly my childhood. While before his Disney Channel days, he actually killed someone. In December of 1991, Lewis fatally hit a 21-year-old woman. She passed away from her injuries from the hit. It was found that Lewis was driving while intoxicated. His blood alcohol levels were 3 times the legal limit of intoxication. As a result, he was convicted of a DUI as well as manslaughter. He was sentenced to 5 years in prison, 2 years probation, and 350 hours of community service. But he managed to only serve 1 year in prison. I guess Disney was able to overlook his past when he auditioned for Mosby on the show. In our 7th spot today, we have Tim Allen. Now, if you look at Tim Allen, you think, aw, he's such a family man. I love Home Improvement and Toy Story. He's a great actor. Wow. Tim Allen actually had quite a dark past before he got into acting. In 1978, Allen was arrested for attempting to traffic more than 650 grams of He was arrested in Kalamazoo Battle Creek International Airport. Now, he actually would have served a lifetime in prison, but he avoided this by giving police information about other dealers. As a result, his sentence was reduced to 3 to 7 years. He ended up serving 2 years and 4 months in prison and then was granted parole in 1981. I guess that's why they say don't judge a book by its cover, because he looks like a wholesome dad, not a drug trafficker. In our 6th spot, we have Jack Nicholson. In 1974, Time magazine discovered that Jack's sister, June, was actually his mother, not his sister. How wild is that? So June was only 17 when she became pregnant with Jack, and she wasn't married, so her parents agreed to raise the child as their own, with Jane and Lorraine acting like his older sisters. So his parents were actually his grandparents, and his sister Lorraine was his aunt. In regards to his dad, we don't know for sure who is his dad, but some say it was likely June's manager. Other sources claim June really just doesn't know who the father was. By the time Jack found this all out, his mom, June, and his grandma had already passed away. Imagine how that would have changed his life. Like, he was raised on a lie.
Halfway, number 5, offensive joke. During the 2016 Olympics in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, Demi made an offensive joke about the Zika virus that showed their true colors. After Demi and their mom were interviewed, Demi decided to post a clip from this interview on Snapchat. But this was a big mistake. In the story, you can see Demi laughing at a joke their mom made about Zika. In this clip, their mom said that everyone is going to come back with the Zika virus, and Demi looked at her and laughed at the insensitive joke. People started flooding Twitter, tweeting that the joke was offensive and wrong, and upset that Demi laughed. Demi brushed off the criticism and did not address it. Many fans found this hypocritical, because Demi can rarely take a joke when it's said about them, and has attacked many celebrities for shady comments in the past. In at number 4, body positivity hypocrite. One of the main movements that Demi supports is body positivity, so it's hard to see that in the past, Demi has supported things that go against this movement. One interesting thing to note is that Demi is close with the Kardashian family, who are obviously very harmful to the body positivity movement, as they promote diet culture and harmful body modifications. This is strange considering Demi has blasted Taylor Swift for her girl squad full of models in the past, because Demi did not believe that Taylor's squad was inclusive. Even worse, in 2017, Demi promoted one of the many detox teas on the market, which we know are incredibly damaging products that are generally touted as weight loss products. And at number 3, lied about sobriety. Demi is very open about their struggle with sobriety, and they've had a few relapses in the past. In Demi's 2017 documentary, Demi Lovato Simply Complicated, Demi admitted that while they were promoting the Stay Strong campaign about sobriety in 2012, they were actually still using illicit substances, so they completely lied to their fans. In the documentary, Demi says, quote, "I wasn't working my program, I wasn't ready to get sober. I was sneaking things on planes, I was sneaking it in bathrooms, sneaking it throughout the night. I went on a bender of like 2 months where I was using daily." After one particularly rough night, Demi wound up in the hospital for mixing too much. Demi was placed in a psych ward and forced to get sober. They say that night they came close to losing their life. And at number 2, arrogant attitude. Many of Demi's former classmates have come forward and exposed that they thought they were better than everyone else while growing up. Since Demi started in Hollywood at a young age, acting in Barney and Friends when they were only 10 years old, they clearly thought they were above their classmates. But obviously that's never a good attitude to have. Former classmates have come out and said how Lovato would look down on them because they had been on TV. This is far from the way that Demi is portrayed. Demi claims that they were teased when they were younger and had a humble upbringing, but clearly that's not true. And finally at number 1, physical fights. Not only was Demi a bully in school, apparently it was not just with words, and Demi would get physical when they were angry. A Tumblr user once spoke and said that she was bullied by the skyscraper singer in school. Apparently, this girl became friends with a popular group of girls at school, and Demi did not like this, and Demi decided to attack this girl for no reason. It started with name calling and nasty comments, but then turned into physical harm. The girl claimed that one time Demi pulled her hair and smeared makeup all over her face. The girl claimed this was the worst day of her life. It's crazy considering Demi is a voice against bullying and has been a part of many anti-bullying campaigns in the past. But since this story lines up with so many other stories about Demi, it's hard not to believe it.
At number 10, college dropout. These days, the status quo for many of us is graduate high school, go to college, graduate, find a job, and eventually die, right? Well, many of us are challenging that these days, and Pete Davidson is one of those people. Pete is one of the many celebrities who started going to college but eventually dropped out to pursue his dreams. Pete graduated from Xaverian High School in 2012 and ended up going to St. Francis College for a full semester before eventually deciding to drop out. The comedian said that he wanted to follow his passion for comedy, and so he left college to dedicate himself to his craft, making being a comedian his full-time job. He serves as a good role model to anyone looking to pursue their dreams as well, even though it can be scary, especially when it comes to anything in the arts. Like my mom always used to tell me, follow your passion and the money will follow you. At number 9, war veteran. We know that Pete Davidson is a comedian on SNL. We also know that Pete can sometimes go a little too far with his jokes. Back in 2018, Pete was making jokes about his opinion on the US midterm elections, and he was alongside former Navy SEAL Dan Crenshaw for the bit. Dan is a former soldier who lost his eye in 2012 when an IED exploded. This was no doubt a traumatic event for the former SEAL, but Pete still decided to make a joke about it, though it didn't go over well. During the bit on SNL, Pete joked about Dan's injury, saying, quote, "You may be surprised to hear he's a congressional candidate from Texas and not a hitman in a porno movie. I'm sorry, I know he lost his eye in a war, whatever." End quote. Pete ended up facing some backlash over his comment, and even some of his SNL co-stars made comments about the nature of Pete's joke. Dan ended up getting revenge on Pete, as in the following week on the show he got to poke fun at Pete in return. Though back when this scandal originally happened, not that many people got upset, since he has now had his fame boosted because of Kim K. He risks having his past exposed again, and this scandal might be a secret that Pete wishes would stay secret. Before we carry on talking about some of the shady things that Pete Davidson doesn't want you to know about, why not take a moment to leave a like on this video if you're enjoying it so far, and while you're at it, consider subscribing to the channel to see more videos like this one. At number 8, suspicious social media. The most dedicated fans are always watching their favorite celebrities' every move. Nowadays, celebrities can't get away with much without having their fans expose them, and this is how it was revealed that Pete can be a little sus online. Back when Pete had just started dating Ariana Grande, fans noticed something a little off about the comments he would leave under his girl's posts. An example of this comes from back in 2016 when Pete commented under his then girlfriend Cassie David's post, saying, quote, "I love you so much, Kaz, I'm the luckiest guy in the world. I find new things to love about you every day." Fast forward to 2018 when he was dating Ariana Grande, when he left a comment on one of her posts saying, quote, "Hi, I'm the luckiest contest winner ever," end quote. Some fans found it a little weird how he used the word luckiest so much. It could have just been a coincidence, which is what I believe, but other fans thought that the word repetition could indicate that he was disingenuous with his thoughts and comments on his partners. This could be a stretch, but don't come for me about it, blame the fans. Pete could want this to all stay a secret because fans might catch on to Pete's true nature if all that they're saying is true. At number 7, engagement ring. Speaking of past partners though, let's talk about the time that Pete Davidson and Ariana Grande were engaged. Fans were a little sussed out when they learned about the timeline of Ariana and Pete's engagement, because it turns out that Pete had reached out to a designer about getting a ring for Ariana, suspiciously soon after he and Cassie David had split. Though news of the engagement broke in June of 2018, Pete and Cassie's split broke the news on May 16th, 2018, but according to celebrity jeweler Greg Yuna, Pete had hit him up about an engagement ring for Ariana at the end of May. That didn't leave much time between the breakup and thoughts about marrying another person. Fans thought that this was pretty suspicious and could prompt theories as to what Pete might have been doing behind the scenes. Perhaps this is a secret that Pete would want to keep hidden over risk of being exposed and cancelled. At number 6, Cassie David. Pete Davidson's relationship with Cassie David, the daughter of comedian Larry David, was Pete's first high-profile long-term relationship. Cassie and Pete started seeing each other in May of 2016, and they went through a lot together. As any couple does, they had their share of struggles, but it eventually got to the point where they just couldn't carry on in a healthy relationship, and so they broke up in May of 2018. In 2020, Cassie published a collection of essays titled "No One Asked for This," where she opened up about her breakup with Pete, recalling the struggles that the both of them had with their mental health during their relationship. Cassie was devastated when she and Pete broke up, but because of Pete's struggles with his mental health, she had to do what was best for her and let him go. Cassie also exposed the fact that she and Pete broke up the day before finding out that Pete and Ariana were together. The end of Cassie and Pete's relationship was pretty painful, as you could no doubt imagine, coming out of a 2-year-long relationship, but according to sources, they are friends now and that works for them.
Halfway number 5, Taylor Swift feud. I'm sure Adele does not want us to know that she has allegedly feuded with Taylor Swift. This is a feud we're not sure is real or not, but it seems there's been some shade thrown between these two singers for years now. After Adele beat out Taylor for a Golden Globe in 2013, Adele made a bit of a shady dig when Adele jokingly said that she is a squad, but they aren't models, clearly taking a dig at Taylor's model squad. Then this year it was reported that Taylor Swift was furious that Adele might be stepping into pop music in her new album. A source said, quote, "Taylor Swift is not happy that Adele is apparently taking a new direction for her next album because it means she could be stealing her pop princess crown. Apparently Swift is giving no help to Adele with this potential crossover." The source added, quote, "Should this rivalry go public, it's going to get messy. It's probably best for Taylor to keep her copycat concerns to herself." And at number 4, she's a diva. One thing I'm sure Adele does not want us to know is that other celebrities think she's a huge diva. Bruno Mars specifically. Singer and producer Bruno Mars had some eyebrow-raising things to say about Adele after they collaborated on her hit song, All I Ask. He of course sang her praises for her amazing talent, but he also made sure to include that she can be a bit of a diva. He said in the interview, quote, "She's a superstar. She walks into the studio, she's got all this attitude. She's a diva. She's like, I don't want to do this, I don't like that. And then as soon as we hit a couple chords that she liked, we started rolling, and that's where we got that song from." But of course, he praised how talented she is, saying that there was a moment where she was in the booth singing when the water started to vibrate. And of course, he would love to work with her again. He said he's just waiting for her to call on him again. It's unclear if he meant that she was a diva in an endearing way, or if he meant to throw some shade. And at number 3, won't apologize for weight loss. Since Adele has had a dramatic weight loss after her divorce, it's been a heated topic of debate amongst her fans. Plenty of fans are happy for her, but many felt that she left them behind and is not actually body positive, or she wouldn't have felt the need to lose weight. Adele has admitted that she feels bad about her radical weight loss, but said that while some fans feel abandoned by her, it's not her job to validate how people feel about their bodies. Since her divorce, she's dropped 7 stone, saying fitness helped with her anxiety after her divorce. Even though fans are upset with her, she said, quote, "I'm not shocked or even fazed by it because my body's been objectified my entire career. I'm either too big or too small. I'm either hot or I'm not. So for now, she's still focusing on herself, not about what people think of her." She continued, quote, "I was body positive then and I'm body positive now. It's not my job to validate how people feel about their bodies." And at number 10, lied about Matt Doran interview. We're not sure if Adele or the media is to blame for this one, but reporter Matt Doran got roasted by Adele fans after it was reported that she stormed out of their interview because Doran did not listen to her album beforehand. Australia's Daily Telegraph revealed that Channel 7's Matt Doran came to London specifically for this 20 to 30-minute interview in an over $600,000 deal. Reportedly halfway through the interview, Adele noticed that he was struggling to express an opinion of his own. Then she flat out asked if he listened to her album. When he said no, she walked off and ended the interview early. Sony later refused to allow footage of the interview to be used with Doran, and he was suspended for 2 weeks. This embarrassing blunder then went viral, with Adele fans roasting Doran online for days. Doran did admit that he did not listen to the album beforehand, but said she did not storm out as it's been reported, adding, quote, "To suggest that the interview was disrespectful or that Adele walked out is incorrect, and that they actually went over time and had a great conversation." And finally, number 1, Bantu Knots scandal. Probably the worst scandal that Adele has ever been in was her scandal surrounding her Bantu knots. In the UK, they celebrate something called the Notting Hill Carnival, where people will share their pride about being a British person with Caribbean descent. And instead of celebrating the occasion how we would have expected, Adele shocked the world when she showed up wearing a Jamaican flag-printed bikini and Bantu knots in her hair, a style worn traditionally by Black women in the region. People immediately called it disrespectful and cultural appropriation. After waves of backlash, she told British Vogue, quote, "I didn't read the effing room." And in hindsight, she completely understands why the backlash occurred. Following the scandal, she says she learned that Bantu knots aren't just a hairstyle, and they serve a functional and cosmetic purpose for certain hair types. She continued, quote, "I was wearing a hairstyle that is actually to protect Afro hair. It ruined mine, obviously."